Very good. Thanks, Agile Nepal community, for giving me this opportunity to speak on this workshop on Agile system thinking, OKR, and impact mapping, or the other way around altogether. So, want to know the best way to demotivate a team? Just keep them away from seeing how their work impacts their customer. Before that, I guess Amit, you'll be taking care of the weight room, or shall I be doing that?
No, no, I'll take care of that.
That's great. So that doesn't distract me. I'll ask you two questions. Does your team feel overwhelmed during the performance evaluation time on what to fill in the system? And second, does your team often complain that they cannot connect what they're doing with the things organization want them to achieve? And if your answer is resonating yes to both the questions, then you're not alone. Every year, every organization, every department, every team, every individual goes through this predicament. But no, this workshop is not as a venting opportunity where we just crib about our organizational dysfunctions. And neither am I going to give you some magic wand which you can go sprinkle across your organization and all your dysfunction will get fixed. But yes, I'm going to introduce you with some of the very powerful tools which that you can use, apply it within your context, within your organization, and find out the answer for your problem. So welcome to the workshop on alignment with OKR and impact mapping and system thinking, which is the icing on the cake toward the end. So principle number 7, which says working software is a primary measure of progress. But if I ask you this question, if you deliver the working software and nothing improves, are you still successful? So taking from the principle number 1, which talks about valuable software, and principle number 2, which talks about customers' competitive advantage, how about this? Valuable software is a primary measure of success. No, by this, I'm not intending to introduce any other principle, or neither am I saying that the principles which are existing are no more relevant. I'm a very strong proponent of all the 12 principles, and you can check my YouTube video Target Agility, where I talk about my views and some thought-provoking questions around each of those principles. But yes, the key point is about valuable software and success. And that's what OKR is all about. OKR is about measuring outcomes and impact. So what does OKR stand for? Very simple, objectives and key results. Ignore initiatives for time being. So objectives is what do you want to achieve? What is your ambition? Something which you can not quantify, but describe your passion, your true north. Why are you actually working? Your key results, on the other hand, how are you going to measure that you are moving toward objective, that you are, yes, achieving, you are onto the right direction. You have, what is your GPS? So key results can be quantified. These are smart indicators, right? But we know things won't happen by itself. You have to do something about it in order for your results to show up, for your dream, your ambition to come into reality. And that's where initiatives come into picture. So what are we going to do to reach our OKRs? So with these three definitions, objectives as your descriptive ambition, passion, your key results as your GPS, your key indicator, your lagging indicator, and your initiative is something, the verb, the activity that you're doing, I invite you to a small exercise. This is a practice time where I invite you through a Jamboard, which I'll be showing you. And as part of that, you'll have to just move these different sticky notes that you're seeing toward the bottom, highlighted in light blue color, and drag and drop it to appropriate objective, cases, or initiative. And for that, here is the link that you may click. I'll also send you the link of that in the chat box so that you can open that. Just bear with me. Right. So this is the link which you can keep it open because all the other links for the different Jamboards would be here. And if you see, just bear with me. Right, so you can see this screen, and so you may click on that OKR understanding, and once you click that, it will take you to a Jamboard, and I'm sure everybody would be having an access to it. So this is the screen which will be looking like same as what you saw into the slide pack. And what I would request is just hold on. People have already started moving it. Just hold on, just hold on. I'll be sending different people. We have got 60 people. I'll be creating a breakout room of roughly 4 people or 3 people in a group. And then based on which room you are in, you'll be showing up, right? Joining breakout room number 1 or 2 or 3. Based on that, scroll through the different sheets. So if you're in room number 6, please click on this and go to the sheet number 6 and do that activity with your team. Any question? If you may unmute and ask a question before we go to the breakout room. Somebody's already done that. That's okay. So Amit, would you be able to help me in creating that breakout room? Because I don't see that option.
Yeah. How many breakout rooms?
So we have 60. I've got 20. So three or 4 in each. It should be fine for 4 minutes with a 30 seconds of timeout.
Okay, I'm gonna make it 10. 10 breakout rooms.
Fair enough.
And time?
4 minutes.
Anand, you are on mute.
Just be back. Yeah. Thanks for that. So I suppose everybody's back now.
Yes.
I hope you found that exercise that was helping in the priming of it. Now, this is the one. That's the actual objective, key results, and initiatives. Improving health, not objective, it's a descriptive. Your ambition is to improve the health, right? And the key results, the key parameters that you identified were reducing blood pressure, reducing BMI, and reducing glucose level. And for that, you thought that you have to do something about it, like running 5 kilometers to 15 minutes of meditation, reducing high calorie food intake. And then you go to the doctor saying that, okay, I took all the initiatives, I got all my key results showing positive. How is my health? And the doctor says, no, your health is still not good. Why? Because you ignored measuring your cholesterol value. So that was one of the key results which you ignored, right? So what it shows is that while your objective is still about improving health, you'll have to be very much cognizant of all the other key results that might be influencing or might be important to be tracked. It could happen that, fine, you would have included cholesterol as well, and that's just 4. It could be lots of those, but you'll have to prioritize what are your real key results which you may want to focus on. Fine, so you achieved all your key results. Forget about improvement. Even your key results, you're not showing positive, but you have done all the initiatives that you could have taken. Then you see that, okay, I'm doing all these 3 things. Am I missing on something? And then you realize that, no, I'm not taking my 8 hours of healthy sleep. I'm busy binging on Netflix and I'm waking till late night. So let's start improving my sleeping time. Or it could be in the extreme scenario that you have to go on medication to improve on your BP or your glucose level, right? So that's what it's about. Inspect and adapt. Based on your objective, you keep on inspecting and adapting your results as well as your initiatives. But toward the end, if you see, I have highlighted one thing: check weight and height daily. This is what most of the organizations end up. They find out one metrics and all they do is just keep on measuring that, nagging their team, just keep on measuring it. And they don't even know how to use this weight and height to actually compute BMI, because that's what your true metric is. Otherwise, height and weight might just be a vanity metric. And that's what we'll explore in the subsequent activities. Any quick question? I'm just being cognizant of the time that we have, but yeah, if there's any quick question before we move ahead. Okay, that's good.
Actually, I had a question regarding objectives. So normally in an exercise, we put one objective so that we can like focus on that particular objective. How about like, would it be okay if we could, merge 2 objectives such that the same activity solves both our problems or like helps us achieve both the objectives?
As long as you are knowing that what is the effect of that initiative on either of those, right? Because it could also be that objective 1 might be influenced by initiative 1 and initiative 2. And objective 2 might be influenced by objective 3 and initiative 1. This initiative 1 is common. You need to understand what is this initiative's one influence on two and one. If you can differentiate that, there's no problem.
Thank you.
All right, so moving ahead. So quickly, this is a real bad OKR example. Increasing profit by 10%. I can mix the objective with a key result. This is quantified. We should not be, because we don't know. Increasing profit, that's it. But there might be other ways, and there might be other parameters that to achieve that, and that's what we'll explore. Implement supplier registration system. They mixed initiative with save 10% on purchases with the key results as well. So there are a couple of dysfunctions hidden within this bad OKR, and most of our organizations just go ahead with these kind of confusing OKRs. Good and updated OKR for this: increase profit. That's it. My objective is about increasing profit, and that will remain year after year after year. The key result might change every quarter or might be every year, depending on your cadence. So reducing 10% on purchase by Q1. So profit can be increased by reducing my cost or increasing my revenue, right? Either way out. So that's what it's being highlighted. Reduce 25% on distribution cost. Increase revenue by 100% from the past year. These are my key results. To achieve that, I implement a supplier registration system. I implement outsourced distribution fleet, and I implement launch seasonal campaigns. It may happen that I launch seasonal campaign, but it does not show me the key results. But organizations get obsessed with their initiatives, that key effect, and they just try to prove that, yes, my initiative was success. It could be something else that went wrong, but my initiative was success. But at the end, if you're not achieving your key results, that is not contributing to our objective, then it's a failed outcome. Fair enough. Now compare it with the one that we had initially. Now here people can very well relate that, okay, my launching of seasonal campaign will help us increase the revenue by 100%, and that will help us increase the profit for the organization.
Excuse me, Anand, can you also share the screen, because I think most of them are also in mobile, so they might not be able to check the link and the
link in a sense. Am I not sharing the screen? I thought I was.
Then you were sharing, but after the breakout room, it got disconnected.
Okay. So sorry. And I'm sending. So you may keep this URL also with you. Thanks, Amit, for sending that. Right. Now, OKR cycle. So what we have done is we have decided on our objectives and key results, which we'll be seeing how we do that. But OKR is not just about identifying your objectives and your key results. It's more than that. It's about that regular cadence. Scrum, talk about any Agile framework, right? Scrum, Kanban, or SAFe. It's all about the regular cadence of inspect and adapt. And that's what even OKR is emphasizing. Regular inspect and adapt around your objectives, outcomes. So you set it out, you align it across the organization, which we'll be seeing through impact mapping. You do that initiative, and then you again see whether that behavior has changed or not. And you do a course correction. You pivot or you persevere. A ruthless pivot or persevere exercise, which we learned from Build, Measure, Learn of Eric Ries's Lean Startup. I'll not go through that detail, but it's really essential to understand this cadence based, and that you should not be setting your OKR only toward the beginning of the year and forget about it, right? So for that, I would suggest, if you're interested, to look into this link. I'm sending it again in the chat window, where I have detailed step-by-step of what you may. So if you're following this screen, then it talks about the steps that you have to do, right from identifying the problems, prioritizing, aligning, implementing, reviewing, and each step is detailed about what do we do in this step, who's involved, what are the steps, what are the challenges for each and every. And I try to give one example as well, right? But the intention of this exercise is not just limited to OKR, and for the benefit of time, we'll extend it to the impact mapping as well. So we have decided, we have come up with our objectives. And now we'll have to extend our definition to the impact. How are we going to achieve? What are the experiments that we'll be running? So objective, what is objective answers? What do we want to achieve as an individual, as a team, or as an organization? What difference do we want to make? So the example that I take is that I want to qualify for my PhD journey, right? So that's my ambition, being a PhD. Key results, how would we know that I'm achieved the objective? How will I measure the objective, right? So one of the key results for PhD is passing the PSM-3 exam, more than 90%. And I have set a time box also because it's a smart objective, right? That I have set it that by September, 90% passing PSM-3. That's my OKR. But here starts the impact mapping. Impact mapping also extends that, okay, who are the actors who needs to demonstrate a different behavior, who needs to act, who are the internal and external stakeholders who can help or hinder the desired change. So when you're working in a department, of course, we always think as actor as a client, but client is just one of the actors. Your vendors, your suppliers, your other departments, your sponsor, they are all the actors. If a sponsor doesn't give the money, then your project is on hold. If your supplier is not providing you that integrated component, your project is on hold. If your customer doesn't use that component, it's on hold. Even your developers are your actors, right? So we need to identify who all are actors. In this example, the actors in my case was of course, apart from me being one of the actors, my co-learners, because in this PSM3 journey, I've got co-learners who will be practicing with me, and of course my kids, who does not distract me when I'm focusing on my studies. So I have these two actors, and there could be many more. Just for demonstration purpose, I have taken these two. The impact, what do I need to see in them? What is the behavior that I want to see in them? So yes, I have identified these people, but how can they help me in achieving my goal, and how they can even hinder, and what behavior that they need to demonstrate. So I take just co-learner as an example, because my kids, that means I know what the impact I wanted in them. But for my co-learners, I want them to be participating in bouncing ideas and co-learning. Then only I'll be able to pass my exam, right? But we know neuroscience that people hate change, right? And they hate change because they are very happy in their complacent stage. So unless we find out what their problem is through, now this is, I'm just discussing about design thinking, using empathy map, your customer journey map. In case you have not identified specifically your actors, then you may use personas. So using these design thinking tools, you may be able to identify your actors, your impact, and your pain. So unless I identify what the pain of my customers, my actors are right now, I'll not be able to motivate them to demonstrate a desired behavior, which is the impact that I want to see in them. So first I'll have to identify, why are they not bouncing ideas and co-learning? What is the problem that they have in their current situation? Speaking to them, of course, using a tool of empathy map, I found out that they don't know where to start. And that's what is making them resistant to the change. Fine, so I came up with certain experiments. I can't leave it over here, right? So I came up with experiments. So what do we need, me as an individual or we as a department need to do so that we can support that change? And what do we need as an action to influence that person? So in this case, I thought that if I can take an initiative, provide them with sample questions and answers, then they will know where to start, and then they will start bouncing the ideas, right? So it goes like this. They'll start bouncing the ideas, they in a sense, these people, and that will ensure that I pass my PSM3 exam. Now, this is just one of the journeys. There would be a lot more, right? Any question on this before we move to the exercise? If not, then again, a practice time. And again, if you have this URL, then you can click on I am understanding as a link, and that will open up this as a Jamboard. Depending on which room you are in, between 1 to 10, you may go to appropriate room by scrolling through this. And then all you have to do is just drag and drop based on whatever you have understood so far between objective, key results, act and impact, pain area, and experiment, right? And you may collaborate and come up with that. You have 4 minutes to do that. And after 4 minutes, we will come over and discuss that, right? And if people who in a different room, they've seen that there's not much activity happening or they want to discuss, immediately come back to the main room and I'm over there. We can take some questions and answers. You have 4 minutes to do that.
Okay, I'm recreating the room.
So I guess we're all getting back.
Yeah.
All right, good to start.
Yeah.
So now let me take that same example and then you can relate to what you did. So our objective was to reduce the road congestion. That's my ambition because of, okay, this is before COVID itself, that there was a huge road congestion happening in Bangalore. So my key results, how will I know that the road congestion has reduced? If the number of cars on a road is reduced by 30% by Q4, which obviously happened without me doing anything. Or, so there are two ways, right? Either you remove the car from the system or you increase the system's capacity itself. So I've kept two results, key results. Increase the road capacity by 20% by Q4. So these are the two key results. But yes, these two won't happen by itself. So I had to identify the actors. So in the second case, the actor was Public Works Department. People generally get confused with this term. So yeah, Public Works Department, because they are the ones who will be creating the roads. But for the first key results, I have to convince the car owners that please stop taking the cars on the road, right? But then I have to understand from them, what's the behavior that I want them to demonstrate and what's the pain that they have. So after speaking, I understood that, okay, they have to take public transport and then only they'll be able to reduce the cars. But why are they not taking public transport? Because they see that public transport is overcrowded and there's no frequent buses. So we got an idea. We did our design thinking, design sprint, and whatever you call, and we came up with an experiment that, okay, what if we build an app where we can pre-book seats for them? That will help it out, right? So these all across is my assumption. I'm assuming that first I'll be able to build this pre-booking seats, app for pre-booking seats. I'm assuming that this is the problem, which they say. It could be that they are saying something else. I might have done my empathy map, but it could be very different, right, from what actually they are feeling like. They might not have told me the truth. I'm assuming that they will really, once I've built that app, they will really take public transport. And I'm again assuming that it's just the car owners who are contributing to the cars. It could be not the real car owners, but the Uber drivers. I'm excluding them from this impact mapping, right? And again, finally, I'm assuming that reducing cars by 30% will reduce the road congestion. It could be that in that particular place, cars really contribute only 10%. It's autos, it's buses, it's other public transports, it's Uber, which is causing the road congestion, right? So that's why we have to understand that these are all assumptions. And whatever we are coming up with are just experiments. Let's not call those as projects, otherwise we get focused on those outputs and not outcomes. So let's call those as experiments. Very fine. But then suddenly COVID struck. And then we found that there's a different way we can reduce the cars. People started working from home, right? And after COVID, we still want to encourage people and the organization to start working from home because that was a very good way to reduce the cars on the road. And for that, my new actor has been identified as company employers. And to both of them, I want them to demonstrate that, okay, car owners, you work from home, and company employers, you allow working from home, right? This is the behavior that I want them to demonstrate. But why would they do that? What is their current pain? Both of them, speaking to them, doing empathy mapping, I understood that they believe that productivity gets impacted working from home, right? So if we can find out a way to improve their productivity, then they both will be okay to work from home. In a sense, the employer allowing working from home and actor actually working from home, right? And once they do that, then we'll be achieving the key results. And for that, we understood, okay, let's build a collaboration tool like Zoom and some other tools. We are not going on to that particular one. So if we build this collaboration tool, then everything will fall in place and we will achieve our objective of reducing the road congestion. Now you see, this is the pure demonstration of business agility. Had I continued building this app for pre-booking seats, right? Even during this COVID, I would have not inspected the market. That market has changed. It's more around a bit the impact of not taking public transport, but actually working from home can help me achieve it. And if I would have not diverted my money from building the app for pre-booking to building a collaborative tools, being obsessed with the output and not based on the impact and the objective that I want to make, I would have failed both on the impact because nobody will be using this app for pre-booking seats. Actually, people don't even want to take public transport anymore, right? Because of the fear. So I would have released the feature, but nobody would have used it, no impact and no objective met. But the real business agility happens when you're able to flex yourself, right? Make sense so far? Another thing to highlight is the difference between the impact and the objective. Fine, people say that let's talk about the impact to the customer. We have to be very conscious of the impact to the customers, but also why are we doing that? Of course, we are not an NGO, we are for-profit business. So what is that for the organization? We'll have to know about this also. And what are the real results? What are the key results through which we know we are achieving it? And once we have done that, and that's where we come up with our backlog of experiments. There are two ways to demonstrate that. First is a typical user story format, which I have had head and tail. So in order to reduce the road congestion, as a car owner, I want to pre-book the seat so that I can take public transport. And because public transports are crowded, I'm highlighting my pain area and I'm even appending the organizational goal. Customer might be just interested into this part, but whoever is developing it might also be interested to know what is the customer's pain and what is the organization's objective. The other way to do that, and which I prefer as well, is the typical hypothesis-driven development way of we believe. I'm starting with believe itself that, okay, to highlight that this is an experiment. We believe that building an app to pre-book a seat for car owners, I've identified my actors, will achieve road congestion, will achieve reduction in road congestion. That's the end intention. We will know this is true when we see reduction in car on road by 30% by Q4. So this is my key results, which I'm showing over here. We can use either of these. Now, let me tell you, we saw this whole objectives and key results and coming up with these hypothesis statements. They don't work in isolation. You saw there was a flavor of design thinking. You see hypothesis-driven development. We may come up with 20 experiments. We may want to prioritize these using different like Kano model, cost of delay, and Moscow and other things. I'm not covering those peripheral concepts, but I would encourage you to go back and look at the other things also, so that how it looks like an end-to-end package. All right. Any question before we jump to the next exercise? All right, so want an endorphin release? Here's to get one. I invite you to do your own OKR and impact mapping based on whatever you have seen till now. Again, we'll be sending people to different breakout rooms. Over there, just agree to one common objective that you want to achieve. And if you don't have any, you may take one simple like how to improve teams collaboration. That itself could be a good goal for any of the agile coaches and consultants. So yeah, if you have any objective which you can converge on, go with that. Otherwise, you may go with how to improve employee or team collaboration as an objective, and then plot the whole stuff. Let's look back at the URL. You go back to this site. Over there, you click on alignment with OKR and impact mapping, and that will open up this Jamboard. And once you're into that Jamboard, right, you'll see the screen something like this. You know how to drag sticky notes. So you'll take the objective. Right. Similarly, you'll be taking your key results. So just keep on dragging, and when you want to link them, it's because as you saw in the previous slide also, right? Because one key result might be linked to different actors. So it might not be one-on-one, it might be different. So if you're going that way, you may want to link them and just use a pen and a different color of pen, like a blue color. You can just click on that and you may just want to link it. Otherwise also you may leave it. And then you come up with your key results, who are the actors, what's the impact, pain, and come up with some experiments. You don't have to be very correct, but the intention is that you understand the concepts, right?
Anand, before we move towards our breakout session, I actually wanted to, like, it would be really great if you could differentiate between the impact and the experiment.
So let me actually go with the example that I'll be able to show you, right? The impact that I want to see in my customers, right? The behavior change that I want to see in my customers, the behavior change that I want to see in my team is that they come on time in a daily scrum, right? My objective is to improve agility within the team. And one of the impact that I can see is they come prepared for daily scrum. They complete the potential increment toward the end of the sprint. That is the impact, the behavior that I want to see in the actors, which is not in my control, right? My experiments are, what am I going to do so that they demonstrate that new behavior? So it could be that I put a fine, 10 rupees fine, that if you're coming late for a daily scrum, you have to pay a fine. But is that a right approach, penalizing? Or it could be I explain them the values and purpose of daily scrum, or something like that. Here in my example, I built this tool. When they have, my actors, car owners have this tool, then they may demonstrate the behavior of taking a public transport. So impact is more around the behavior that I want to see in my actors, who will then help me achieve the objective. Does that answer? Or?
Yes, thank you.
So any other question before we move to the breakout room and do this exercise? I think logistics are clear. You'll have to go to this link. I see people are already there. Depending on which breakout room you enter, you'll have to go to that screen. You have to use the sticky note to link them. Then you click on pen, select appropriate color, and just do the linking of it.
Can I create?
If there's no other question, then for this time, let's have it for 7 minutes with 1 minute of breakout timeout.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And if there's any question, you may just drop in to the main room, or I'll also try to hop into different rooms.
I'm creating 7 different rooms
now. If possible, 10 rooms would be good.
Because we don't have.
Okay, fair enough. Just have 7 rooms itself. Good enough.
I think it's 7.
All right, welcome back. I know the time was short and we had to manage it out. Not many people would have been able to complete their whole exercise. What would like to hear from you? How's been the experience so far? Any questions, any thoughts before we move ahead? And I realize that within a span of, we have just like 15 minutes, there's too much to absorb, too much to consume. But
I
yeah,
have one thought. In
Yes,
real life, in the company, do the people really do such exercise for the work?
Correct. And if they don't do, we know the impact, right?
Because normally they are busy in their work, whatever is assigned, and deliver it.
Right.
So unless you plan a special session and which kind of people bring them together to get the key results with the goal, whatever you have.
Very well said, RC sir. And
because it cannot be a regular work.
Right.
It is a planned work with some definitive objective.
Very well said. So this is where your cadence comes into picture, your quarterly or your monthly, that, okay, this is the goal that you have set. And what happens is that you just share that goal to the organization in a spreadsheet or in some tool that you have. And then you let the departments come up with their own initiatives or projects, and they just put it onto, again, a spreadsheet to show that there is an alignment, and they start going onto it. But then we see how many projects actually fails, how many of those, let alone projects are successful, but they don't demonstrate the impact that they want to see. And through this, I'm demonstrating that there is a gap. There is a gap in the way you are building that alignment. And if you think that you don't have a time to do that, very well, there is no compulsion to be successful. You can always bring to a feature factory model. You can keep on delivering your output and keep patting your back and say that, yes, I'm all successful. But here I was showing with a real example, right? That if you don't do that, you might certainly be missing out on certain things. And it's just not that, as I was saying, right? 15 minutes was too much to consume. And if this was not enough, let me add the icing to the cake. It doesn't stop the complexity over here. So before I move ahead, any more questions? Any more thoughts? Okay, so here comes the causal loop diagram. What causal loop diagram says is that, find your fishbone diagram, we know where you have a impact, and you can find out the cause by doing the fishbone Ishikawa diagram. But causal loop diagram says is that there could be a cause which will have an impact, which will do a cause, which will have an impact, which will feed back onto the system. And all these things might not be synchronous. There might be gap. So you might do something now, and after 6 months, the result will show up, which will make the situation where you started even go more bad. So if we are not investing time onto that, assuming that you would have invested time onto this OKR and impact mapping, even after you would have done that, and if you don't do this part as a closure, then you'll realize what the impact would be. So causal loop diagram is basically also called as a system thinking diagram. It's 4 components. One, your variable where you are starting with. So my variable is what I'm taking up with. Relationship between this variable and other variable denoted by different arrows. The direction of an arrow shows that, okay, this is the cause and effect, and the line shows. So if it is red, then it's an inversely proportional relationship. And if it is blue, it shows a direct proportional relationship. Let's see with an example. So managers supportive behavior. Managers support those behavior of an employee who performs good. So more is the employee's performance, more is the supportive behavior. More is the supportive behavior, more is the employee's performance, right? But, so this is what we've shown it up. But the employee's performance cannot keep on improving till infinite, right? There will be some balancing which will happen. And as the manager's supportive behavior keeps on increasing, the employee starts working more, right? Just to impress the manager. And the more he or she works, the more he or she burns down. And the more he or she burns down, the less is the employee's performance. I'm sure people agree to it. We can't work for 18 hours with the same sustenance capacity. So while we are setting, while it was looking very good that, okay, managers are supporting employees' performance and patting the back of those employees who are good and giving the results, it is actually harmful. It's actually leading, it may lead, not now, but maybe later on, it may lead to the performance degradation. So this was one just very simple causal loop diagram. There might be many more variables, and one person cannot sit and come up with these all, because that's what it is called, system thinking diagram. You'll have to see from a systemic perspective and not local optimization over here. You'll have to think from the whole system, and the system extends even beyond this, right? Any questions and thoughts? So why?
I want to say, I think during work from home, it has definitely caused burnout in the people. Is my observation.
Very well said. Very well said. Lots of meetings, lots of mistrust and other things, right? So that could be an opportunity for team to sit down and maybe come up with this causal loop diagram and see where do we have to break this loop. So when we are setting this employees performance that you have to improve your productivity from 10% to 20% as a figure, then you'll have to also ensure that managers' behavior is not only toward people who are performing, just to balance it out. You'll have to you'll have to cut any of these loops. Uh, you can't cut this loop, so you'll have to you'll have to identify which loop you will have to cut so that it doesn't go onto the bad direction. Now, this was just a starter to make you understand what the power of causal loop diagram is. Let's go back to the example that we took about road construction. So road to hell is even paved with good intention, right? So our intention of reducing road traffic congestion was a very pious, right? But we will see how bad it could go or how it will actually help us coming up with identifying few of other actors. Let's quickly see that. We started, the more is the pressure to reduce the traffic congestion, the more is the road construction that we encourage. The more is the road construction, the road capacity increases. The road capacity increases, the travel time reduces. When the travel time reduces, then the pressure to reduce the traffic reduces. Looks very fine. We have actually solved the problem. Because we started with reducing the traffic congestion, we actually reduced the time with more roads, and that helped us in reducing the traffic congestion, the pressure also for it. But it doesn't stop there. Now, because the travel time has reduced, my attractiveness of driving has increased. Where I was taking 1 hour to go in a place, now I'll just take 15 minutes or 20 minutes. So I'm more encouraged to take cars, right? And the more is the attractiveness of driving, which gets augmented or exacerbated by that public transport fare is very high, or that there is very less public transport, then my attractiveness of driving will be very high, because I see that I have to wait for half an hour for a bus, or that the bus costs me 100 rupees. Then I'll say that, okay, I'm very fine with my own car. And on to add that the public transport patronage, the whole government, the transport department doesn't encourage public transport, then also your attractiveness of driving will increase. There are lots of cities in India, and I'm sure in Nepal also, where the government doesn't encourage public transport, or the fare is so high, or that there's less number of public transport. All these actually adds up your attractiveness of driving, right? And when your attractiveness of drive increases, your trips per day increases. When that increases, your traffic volume actually increases, because everybody is attracted toward driving. And when traffic volume is increasing, your travel time increases. And your travel time increases, now you are into this vicious circle. You again have a pressure of reducing traffic congestion. You go ahead and construct more road. It doesn't stop there. Your traffic volume can also be influenced by the number of cars in the city. If I see that, okay, this particular city attractiveness of driving is very good, or that the population in the city is less, or that I get a very heavily discounted cars, or that the petrol or fuel cost is very less, then also I'll buy more cars, and that will add to the traffic volume. So you see, there is so much to it. And at the end, what happens? Through traffic volume and through road congestion, I've just added more air pollution. Without actually achieving the end intention of reducing traffic congestion, I've had the collateral damage of air pollution. So with this diagram, and this might not be end, if you brainstorm, if you think, and that's why it is called systemic thinking, because it's not just one person who can come up with it. Everybody will have to pitch in. And I'm sure if I leave this floor open for an hour, people will come up with 15 other such hidden items within this diagram, which will be adding to the problem. So with this diagram, I identified that one of my actors should have been the public transport department. I took PWD within confidence as one of my actors. The transport department should have been, and car dealers also should have been. Immigration department should have been if it is about international or state boundaries and like that. I would have even have my KPI as one of the key results as an air pollution. Am I measuring my air pollution level? That, okay, fine, I reduced my traffic congestion with an intention of reducing traffic congestion. Have I resulted in more air pollution? I really understand it's too much to digest, but that's what it is. If we don't do this, and we are not doing it, then we are not handling the situation, and we are not working toward the outcome. We might be working toward the output. We might be delivering those apps. We might be not actually solving the outcome. And I started with that small example of employee and employer to demonstrate the importance of this systemic thinking diagram. Any thoughts?
Just an example, in Delhi, the government made the rule one day odd number of and other day even registration number I'm talking about.
Right. So it could have had some other impact. We don't know. I was even looking at this COVID problem, and if you Google out COVID causal loop diagram, you will be really impressed how the situation has got out of control because there were other variables which the government or health departments or we didn't take into consideration. So rightly said, RC sir, one of the ways was they just came up with a different initiative altogether of odd even rule. So rather than encouraging of building an app or encouraging work from home, they just came up with that experiment. Whether that experiment actually runs success or not will be only demonstrated by looking at my key result. It could be that car owners were not only people who were adding to it. It could be public transport, the buses, right? So that's what I was mentioned in the beginning.
Problem added by the essential services and the emergency situations.
Right. All right, so here with that we have come to an end, and I now welcome you to explore what we have learned so far. And for that, I invite you again to that same URL, and toward the end, if you see, there's a feedback link which you may click, and that will open up conclusion sheet. Depending on what room you are in, I invite you to answer 3 questions. The first, what all did we do today? The second, what have we learned from this? And the third, how and where are we going to use this information or practice? The 3 questions are reflected in the dashboard as well, the Jamboard as well, and you use sticky notes and put it over there. Any questions? Before I ask Amit to open the breakout room. So you'll be having 4 minutes to do that. Oh, sorry, you don't have to go through a breakout room. Sorry, you may just do that all by yourself. Use that Jamboard, put your sticky notes and reflect on what all you did. If you find that space is congested, you may go to some other sheet and put your thoughts. And for the others, I'm open to feedback, questions and answers. I suggest reading OKR through Felipe Castro. He is actually one person I look forward. The immense practicality that he puts into OKR, that's the blog of his. There are lots of free materials available, lots of videos. For system thinking, I refer to the systemthinker.com, and for impact mapping, of course, the book itself and impactmapping.org. But the best way is to practice and experiment within your circle of influence. And finally, I'll be happy to connect with you. That's my LinkedIn ID, and I'll send that in message as well. Just bear with me for a second. So I put my LinkedIn ID, and I request you to please include me into your network. And with that, Amit, I hand it over to you, but I'm open to take any questions with the remaining time that we have.
Yeah, we can have any questions if there's any, or we will go for a break.
What time is it right now over there?
It's 12:24 in Nepal.
It's 5 more minutes to go.
Yeah.
Hi Anand again. So it was a wonderful presentation, and I did learn a lot. I actually have one question on objectives. Although we've been practicing objectives in a lot of aspects and everything, but you know, so when we talk about when we try to pinpoint an objective, do we see it from a perspective of a problem, or do we see from the perspective of a solution? For example, in your road congestion example, road congestion is a problem, but when we put a story card as an objective, do we put it as road congestion as a problem, or solving road congestion as, like, trying to figure out a solution to it?
Right. It depends on the perspective that you're taking, solution-based approach or a problem-based approach. So whether in your context, you dwell more onto the problems and then come up with a solution, or you let the problem itself be there, thinking completely out of the box. But objective is more around what is that you see yourself 6 months, 6 years down the line. That's what your objective is. If that answers.
So including time as a variable as well.
So you have some vision, right? Time variable will be reflected onto your key results, those cadence-based increments. But I see myself 6 years down the line as a professional coach. So be a good professional coach, right? That's it. I can even put it as don't be a bad professional coach, but I want to be on the more positive side, right? As so I can say that reduce traffic congestion, or I could say that improve traffic flow. Right? It just sounds the same.
Right.
Depends on whether you live onto the problem space for long, and that's also good, or you live onto the solution space for long. If that answers. You may want to explore that problem-focused approach and solution-focused approach. They are two different ways, but they meet the same intention.
Yeah. Thank you, Anand.
If there's no, then thanks a lot. Thanks for having your patience for 1.5 hours. And I hope you found this investment of your time worth, and that you'll be able to use whatever we explored till now. And finally, I thank RSG Nepal for having me over here to share off some of my thoughts.
Thank you, Anand.